I grew up in Hot Springs, Arkansas. I was born in a small town called Leland, Mississippi. My mother, she moved to a beautiful community called Hot Springs when I was just a toddler. And she picked a beautiful place. She really did, known for promenades and hot baths and bathhouse row. So we grew up in a beautiful community, and we drank a lot of hot water that came just bubbling up from the ground. My mother worked very hard, and when we were growing up, just little kids, she would go to work and she would send us to Head Start. And in Head Start, we learned our manners, how not to put your elbow on the table. We learned how, which forks to use. And I can't remember the woman who taught me that because I was so young. But we also learned how to read and write. So I learned to read and write at a very young age. And my mother always emphasized education. She emphasized God first, and she also emphasized getting a good education. So before the age of 5, I was already doing my little reading and writing, and I can remember sitting on a hill in the projects and writing poetry, my first little lines of poems. And I'm one of 7 children. I have 5, there are 5 girls and 2 boys. And we were always very close. Mama used to tell us that it was important to love everybody and to treat people right. And with $500 and plus one other small scholarship, I was accepted to the University of Arkansas. As soon as I finished college, just before that, I had an advisor, Mr. Reed, who came to me and he talked about this newspaper that was in Little Rock, Arkansas. And on January 29th, 1988, I started at the Arkansas Gazette, oldest newspaper west of the Mississippi River. Gannett is the only news organization that I have worked for. But I will say that from the early days of my career, I've been called the N-word in many different ways while doing various stories. One of my first memories of racism, and I was shocked, was when I answered the telephone at the newspaper in Little Rock, and this woman on the other end in the features department, she said, "I need to speak to that little Negro girl who's sitting at the front desk." I said, "Oh my God, like really?" I said, "Did you just say Negra?" I dropped the phone. And literally there were reporters sitting near me, white reporters, who said, they were like, "What's wrong?" Because I was embraced. Even in the South, even in the newsroom here in Florida, the racism that can exist, I didn't really experience that outright in the newsroom. So, but when it came to racism, I experienced it when doing stories or when answering the phone. While I was in Florida, I started there on the copy desk, but I got my first promotion into management as an editor who worked in the field because they asked me, "What are you interested in?" I went into a management training program. I started a program called the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Project. It appeared on the cover of Editor and Publisher magazine. Keith Moyer at the time was the editor in Rochester, New York. And he was here, and he saw the Editor and Publisher magazine cover, and I'm not sure, I hadn't seen him in 2 years, but he had been the editor at the Little Rock newspaper. And within a couple of weeks, I was on a plane. Not long after that, I had a job here and was moving here. And I came in as the assistant managing editor for News 2000. I had like a first career and a second career. In my first career, I was an assistant managing editor for training for News 2000, thinking ahead about how to work with the community, and I always liked working with people. And so my first few years, that's what I did. In 1998, I was in my second pregnancy, because as soon as I got here, within 6 months, I met my husband.
When I first met Cynthia, it was a great experience. We met at my parents' church. I grew up in the city of Rochester in a ministry that was 35 years old. And Cynthia came from down south. She had moved up here from Fort Myers, Florida. And I couldn't believe that someone would come from Fort Myers, Florida with that beautiful sunshine that she enjoyed down there to Rochester, where it was freezing cold. Because when she came up here, it was 3 degrees.
Within 6 or 7 months, we were married.
This was over some 20 years ago. We've been married over 2 decades.
And I started a family. So from 1998 to 2003, I was home with my children.
And 3 beautiful children came out of it.
Downtown, actually, B Sharp did a really good story not too long ago.
My management style is assertive. My style is to value the various opinions in the room.
You know, sum the whole thing up in like 30 seconds, 45 seconds, which is a really...
And, but to be the decision maker.
So have you seen the, well, we have everything, here's the challenge.
My family means everything to me. And my husband, Jeff, is a pastor. He founded our church, which is called Rebirth Ministries.
Hallelujah, we are trying to be in all of our ways, but we can do nothing without you. And Father, we pray that you will stop by and bless us on today.
And it's a joy working with her. She is, again, an awesome woman of God, and she's an awesome speaker as well. And so I enjoy the co-ministry together.
Can we just worship the Lord? I will look to the hills, from whence cometh my help. Come on, shout my help. My help. It comes from the Lord. Does your help come from the Lord?
I love that we have Unite Rochester, which is a very important ongoing community leadership initiative. And I would advise to aspiring journalists that they care about the people, but also in light of accuracy and making sure that they're fair and balanced in how they do things. You can't allow what you think about people to become a part of your report. You have to be objective, and you just have to ensure that no matter where you're coming from, that you're doing what's right. My mother, she died in 2013, and my sister also died. My oldest sister passed the same year, 2 months apart. So, in memory of them, I give in memory of them. My mother believed in giving. She ran a tight ship. She believed in the love of Jesus Christ. And so, even now, these years later, I try and keep alive what I was taught as a child.